Hello, and in this video we're going to complete 1.3.4 for IED. For this we're going to use Onshape to create these shapes, then pan them out like it tells us to using circular and linear tools, and then extrude them into an object. So I'm going to start off, I just have my blank canvas here. I'm going to start off with, I'm going to make this 4x6, and then that way we can just cut out of a 4x6 kind of sheet we start with. So I'm just going to sketch on the front and change to my front view and do a center point rectangle, so my origin's at the center, and I'm going to click and I'm going to make it 6 long by 4 tall, and that gives us that canvas to work with. I hit my check to accept, I click on it, I'm just going to extrude this out 1/4 of an inch or 0.25 inches, and that gives us our kind of canvas to work on. Then next, I'm going to start a new sketch. I'm just going to click on that surface I just created, and I'm going to use that to complete my sketch. So on this sketch, I already have my 4x6 rectangle, and now it wants us to add a few shapes to it. So first, it has a circumscribed pentagon using a radius of 0.35 inches. So I come over, I choose my polygon tool, and it says circumscribe. I'm going to put it on the left hand side just like they did. It said a pentagon, so I'm going to make it 5 sides. By moving my mouse left and right, I can change that value. So I select that. And then I'm going to dimension, so I'm going to use my dimension tool up here on the top, and I'm going to select the circle, and it's doing a diameter, so I have to multiply that 0.35 by 2 and get 0.70, and that gives me my polygon. Next, it's got us doing a hexagon with an inscribed hexagon with a radius of 0.25 inches. So now I'm going to use that same tool, the polygon, but I want inscribed. I'm going to come over here on the right hand side and click. It's already on 6, so I'm going to keep it at 6, and then I'm going to do my dimension again on the circle, and I want that to be 0.25 times 2, which is 0.50. So that gives us a hexagon. Then next it has us doing an equilateral triangle. So, and one side is going to be 1.25. So again, I'm going to use my polygon tool. I'm going to come down. This time when I click, I want to go over to the left till I have just 3 sides. And then I'm going to select one of those sides and make it 1.25. That makes all 3 sides 1.25. Then it's having us do some patterning with these different, some locating with these shapes. So I'm just going to go through step 6 here. So first it says the center of the pentagon is on a vertical line through the center of the rectangle. So we want it on that line in the middle. So that's on my y-axis here. So all I'm going to do is use the coincident constraint. So it's this very first constraint here. I click the center dot of my pentagon, and then I hit that y-axis. That completes that constraint. Second one side of the pentagon is horizontal and located 0.5 inches above the center point of the rectangle. So 2 things to do here. First, we want a horizontal constraint. So I select horizontal and one side of my pentagon, and that makes it horizontal. Then we have to use dimension. So I select the bottom of that horizontal line, and then I select my x-axis. I set that value as 0.50, and that sets it in place. It's fully constrained. You can see it's black now, so now that's been fully constrained. So next, it's going to have us move on to a hexagon. It says the one side of the hexagon is parallel with a 6-inch side of the rectangle. So I have to use my parallel constraint. So I come up, select parallel. Select the outside, that 6-inch side, and then the side of my hexagon. And that makes those 2 parallel to one another. Next is my center of the hexagon is coincident with the diagonal of the rectangle. So right now we can't see any diagonals on the rectangle, but we can quickly and easily draw those in. So I'm going to select a line, and then I'm going to make a construction line by selecting construction, and then I'm going to go from the center to the outside corner, and that gives me a construction line that I can place that on. It's not part of my sketch. You can see it, but it's not an object in my sketch. So now I just want to switch back to coincident, which we used earlier. Select the center dot and select my line. Finally, it says the hexagon is 0.5 inches below the top side of the rectangle. So that's another dimension. I select the center of my hexagon and the outside edge, and I type in 0.5, and that gives us that dimension we need. Now again, we can see it's fully constrained. So now we're going on to our triangle. So on the triangle it says one vertex of the equilateral triangle is coincident with a corner of the rectangle. So we're already on coincident, so I just select one of the corners of my triangle and the corner of my object. We're not on coincident right now, so I got to select coincident, and we go corner and corner, and that moves my triangle. Then once again, it's having us use a diagonal, so I'm going to select my line tool. I'm going to again make a construction line and go corner to corner. This time it says to do a coincident with the diagonal in the center of that equilateral triangle. So I select my coincident, I select the center, and I select that line, the construction line we just created. And now you can see everything's fully constrained. It's all black, and so we're fully constrained. So we'll come down to the next step on the assignment, which is having us do these patterns. So on here it says a rectangular pattern. It's actually going to be a linear pattern on here. And then we do a circular pattern for the pentagons and another linear pattern with the triangles. So we're going to start with the hexagons. We'll start at the top and work our way down. So on the hexagon, to do our linear pattern, all I'm going to do is I'm going to select first my pattern. So as you can see, it's linear pattern. When you click, you also have the option for circular, which we'll use later. So I'm going to do a linear pattern. I'm going to highlight this hexagon. And you can see it's already starting to do my linear pattern. I want it to go to the left to match what's on the paper. So I'm just going to move and click and drag it to the left. And also want to go down. If we look, it goes down, so I want to drag it down as well. So I'm going to take this upwards arrow and drag it downward. And that gives me my linear pattern I'm looking for. So now I have that pattern located. To place it, all I have to do is, you can see the mouse, it tells me I got to right click to accept, and that accepts that. In this case, it wants to get rid of this bottom left hand corner hexagon. That's pretty easy to do. All you have to do is highlight it and get rid of it. So I'm just going to make a box and highlight it and hit delete, and that gets rid of that hexagon. In this case, it got rid of my construction line. I could go back and re-add it, so I'm just going to re-add it. That's going to be the quickest way to get it back. And then again, add my coincident constraint, and everything's located. Next, it's got us working with the pentagon in the center. It wants us to do 1, 2, 3, 4, a total of 5 pentagons in a circular pattern. So all we're going to do is, again, come up here to the top. This time we're going to select the circular pattern. This time I'm going to highlight and get my pentagon. And you can see right now it's showing me I have 3x. I want to change that value. So all I have to do is double click on it. And I want to change that to a 5. And that gives me my 5 pentagons. I hit the green check on my mouse and it accepts those 5 pentagons. So that gives us our circular pattern we're looking for. Finally, on the arrows, if we look, it's got these arrows. It's got a total of 7 of them. So we want to do 7 arrows going diagonal along that line. So to do that, again, I'm just going to switch over to my linear pattern. This time I need to select my triangle. I'm just going to select, since it's only 3 sides, I'm just going to select all 3 sides. I could grab those circles, but I don't need to in this case. And I want to drag it back as well. So I'm going to drag it at that angle. You can see that 3x moves as I have that movement. So I'm going to set it close to where I want it. And then I'm going to change that 3x to a 7x. And that 7x, you can see it makes 7 of these. And right now it's going pretty far back. So if I want to move it and move it in, I can move it in so I don't have quite as many. So I want to get it a little closer like it has in the pattern. So I'm just grabbing that box and moving it in a little closer. So in this case, I want to try to line up on that line and drag it in closer. And that should just about do it for us. That looks pretty good. So once you have it where you want, you hit the mouse left click on your mouse to accept, and that gives us that linear pattern we're looking for. So now we have all the patterning. Now that we've finished sketching, we're just going to finish the sketch and start cutting these out using the extrude tool. We could do some trimming down here and just get what we want, but in this case they just want us to go straight ahead into cutting these out. So I'm going to hit my green check to accept. Then I'm going to hit extrude, switch it to remove, and change what it says blinded through all so it cuts through everything. Then I'm going to start just by selecting these pentagons here in the middle and cut out all my pentagons. And then I do the same thing on my hexagons up here. And then down on the bottom part, they want us to make some arrowheads essentially. So I'm just going to select the arrowhead portion. So I do the first, then I skip a level and make my second one. And then we select the third one. So I come in and make my third arrowhead. And this gives us the pattern they're looking for. And hit my green check to accept, and you can see I got it cut out and it matches what we're looking for down here on this diagram. So now that we have that pattern cut out, next thing they want us to do is take these pentagons there in the middle and do an offset and a little fillet and extrude them out. So we're going to go back, we're going to look at our front and start a new sketch on the front. This time we're going to use the offset tool. So if we look up here on the top, some of you guys have used slot before. Today we're going to use offset. I'm going to select 3 of my pentagons. You could select the whole object. In this case, it's having me select the sides. You can also do a drag and drop, drag to select. So I can select my sides of my pentagon and I select all of them, and right now it's having me offset by 0.25. I want to change that value to 0.1. So once I offset, you could also change the direction so it goes inward, but I just want to go 0.1 in this case, it says. So I'm going to do that for 3 of these. So I'm going to select another pentagon and do one. Oh, if I can get it just the sides. I'm going to do just the sides and do an offset of 0.1 on those as well. And then select the third set. Maybe I can do a third set and make that one go off 0.5 as well. I'll take a break here and you guys can catch up to us and I'll catch you in a minute. So now that we have all 3 of ours offset, next thing it wants us to do is a fillet. You could do this after you extrude, but in this case we're going to do it on our sketch. So to sketch our corners of our fillet, we're just going to select them and then you can change the radius. In this case I want a radius of 0.2. So I'm going to select it, right click and select my radius of 0.2. And once it's doing that for each one of these, so once you do the first one, it defaults to 0.2 for all the others. And you can go ahead and select all your corners and fillet them to a 0.2 radius curvature. Once you have them all, you have to right click off them to accept, and it completes that curvature for you. In this case, it looks like there's one we missed because of how it was set up. Nope, we got it. So we got them all rounded to 0.2. Finally, it wants us to extrude. So again, you screen check and hit extrude. This time we're going to remove, we're going to add, and we want to go between each one of these objects to extrude it out. And it's going outward, so we have to make sure it's going out, and by turning it you can see it does. It looks like 1 inch is a good measurement, and we can hit select and it gives us what we're looking for, that 1 inch extrusion. It should match what we see down here at the end on object. So hopefully this helps you in creating that object for 134. Now this is a little longer video, but hopefully you can get that created. Good luck.